Hello YouTube, Redneck Reloader here. I've been working a lot the last few weeks and I haven't been able to get out here and do any reloading, but I've kind of got a day off and I got a chance to come out here and do something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I'm going to reload some 38 200. This is going to be for my wife's 38 Victory pistol. I won't go into a bunch of history about it. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you might be familiar with the 38 Victory, but the 38 Smith & Wesson is not the same as a 38 Special. It's an older bullet. It's slightly larger in diameter. It's shorter and less powerful. But there was a lot of guns made by a bunch of manufacturers. Smith and Wesson made a lot of 38 Smith and Wesson pistols for the British during World War II, and a lot of these guns were sent over. They were used in military service. They were also used by police up until I believe the 1970s, but they were chambered, and then a lot of them came back after the war, and they're called the Victory models because of the war and also the serial numbers. They build a certain amount of them. Once the serial number got up, they started again with a V in front of the serial number for Victory. And I have one of those guns, or I should say my wife does. It's her gun. It belonged to her grandmother, and she's got a lot of sentimental value to her because of that. And it's a gun that she's very comfortable shooting. She likes shooting revolvers, and she's got a lot of experience shooting that Victory. And it's just a gun that she has an attachment to. And it's the one that she is most comfortable shooting. So therefore, it's also the one that she prefers to keep by her bedside for self-protection. So the problem with that is it's hard to find ammunition for these guns, and the ammo that you do find is usually underpowered. They don't make the best ammo for it. There's a couple of companies that make ammo, and they're all outside the U.S. I've not found any U.S. manufacturers that make them. Maybe they do, but I haven't found them. I've got 2 boxes of ammo here to show you what they make for it. One of them is by PPU, which I know it's made in Europe, made in Serbia. And these are 145 grain bullets. And then MagTech, I also got a box of theirs, and I believe, yes, these are made in Brazil. And these are 146 grain bullets. But all of the bullets that are made nowadays by these other companies are low-powered rounds. And the reason for that is a lot of these 38 Smith & Wessons were break-top revolvers. And they weren't that well made to start with. And nowadays, as old as they are, and that they were kind of weak, there's always a possibility you could blow a gun up or damage it using too powerful a round. So the companies that do still make these make them only in the lighter grain bullets and a very reduced load. Shooting one of these feels about the same as shooting like a 22 long rifle. And I heard it described one time as a mouse fart. So they're not very powerful rounds. Now, they're also not very accurate in the Victory revolvers. And I always thought it was something with the revolver, which I thought was kind of odd since it had a 5-inch barrel. But I think it's a combination of the low-powered round that drops real bad. And, excuse me, it's a lighter bullet than what the gun was designed for. Now, the British started with a 200 grain bullet, and this is 145. Later on in the war, they changed it to from a lead bullet to a jacketed bullet, and it was lighter. I don't remember what it was. I'm sure somebody out there knows, but it was like 167 grain or something. But originally, the original round was a 200 grain lead bullet. And that's what the gun was designed for. That's what it's sighted for. And So I wanted to, since my wife is going to be using this gun, it's not a big shooter. We're not going to be shooting it a whole lot. I don't need to make a ton of ammo for it, but I was more concerned with making quality ammo for it. But I didn't want to spend a lot of money doing it. So I bought some 200 grain bullets, and I've got one here to show you that I already loaded, and just kind of show you the difference between the two. It's a much larger bullet. It's a very long bullet, and I've been playing with charges, and I had tried some with unique 1.9 grains, and they shot fine. Still weak. It felt about the same. I don't have a chronograph or anything. I'm just going by feel, but it definitely felt about the same as the factory round. There's not a lot of load data on these. They don't publish load data for the 200 because every load book I've seen, even my old Lyman from 1967, talks about being careful with the top break revolvers and how they do reduced loads because of that. So I did find some information online and talked with some people who have been reloading it. And it seems like 2.2 grains of unique seems to be a pretty good load for that. I've talked to people loading all the way up to 3, but it seems like 2.2 seems to be a good load for it. So I did some 1.9s already. I'm going to bump this up this time and try some 2.2s this morning. So I'm just loading 3 bullets. I've actually loaded one already, the one I showed you. I've got 2 more cases. These are new cases. I went ahead and just pulled the bullets off from the factory. I've got about 100 factory rounds and about 100 lead bullets. That will probably last me a lifetime because this gun does not get shot very often at all. So I'm fine with that. I might buy another 100 bullets just to have them, and I can reuse the cases, of course. But I bought these little beauties. This was I was kind of excited about this. Like I said, I'm not going to do a lot of reloading for this. I did not want to invest a lot of money into it, to be honest with you. I got a set of dies. These are CH dies. They were made in El Monte, California. Now, from what I can see online, this company's still in business. They've changed the name. It's something like 4C or something like that, and they're in Ohio now. These are very old dies. These are 38 Smith & Wesson dies. I got these for $7, so I was pretty happy with that. I don't think they've ever been used. From what I can tell, they were brand new. They're older dies. It's a 2 die set, which is kind of weird for me for pistol because all my pistol die sets are 3 die sets. But they're in fantastic condition, and I've been real happy with them so far. Now, I'm going to do something a little different with this video. With my other reloading videos, I've set the dies up from scratch. I don't want to do that with these, I'll be honest with you, because they're kind of finicky. I ruined a couple of cases trying to get it set up right. I've got them set and locked now, and so I'm just going to run them, but I will kind of go over how to set them up for you. This is the paperwork that came in, and I thought this was pretty cool. It says Roddy real big as soon as you open the box. Apparently, some of you out west, I guess, might be familiar with these guys. I don't know if they're still around or not, but it's a Roddy Recreational Products, and they've got a thing here that says send 50 cents for your new Roddy catalog, and it's the date on the catalog is 1963. So I know these dies were 62, 63 when they were made. But one side of the paperwork is an advertisement for Roddy, and it's a bunch of fishing equipment and then CH reloading equipment and their information. So I'm assuming Roddy must have been a distributor for CH. I just thought it's kind of odd to see the advertisement for Roddy on the same directions. They must have just printed these directions custom for them or something. But these are the directions on how to set up the dies, and I'll just kind of walk you through it. But the first die is a sizing, decapping, and expander die. So it's similar like a rifle die in that aspect. And then the second die is just a seeding and crimp die. To set up the decapping die, you you screw the body of the die down until it touches the shell holder. And then you're supposed to screw the plunger in until the decapping pin extends 3/16 of an inch below your sizing die. And they're also very critical about which die you use, a shell holder. I mean, it has to be 1/8 of an inch to lip to base in order to size it correctly. And then you have to measure how far the decapping pin comes down. And then if you look at that image, this expander, I guess it's the expander ball or the neck resizer, it's very close to the bottom of the shell holder when you're putting that decapping pin out there. The decapping pin's very short. What I did, I'm not thrilled with these dies. I mean, they do the job for this, but I mean, if C&H were still selling these dies, I wouldn't buy another set for modern reloading, because one of the issues I have with that is the way that is set up. It doesn't expand the case mouth as far as what I feel it should. And actually, I shave a little bit of lead sometimes on these bullets when I seat them. Because of that, I kept screwing that down further and further, trying to expand it more. And what I ended up doing was I had that piece coming in contact with the bottom of the case. And I didn't notice that when I was sizing it. And then when I started to load, when I went to put a primer in, I couldn't seat the primers all the way. They were sticking out a little bit. And what had happened is the bottom of that case had bowed down from the force of that expander thing pushing on it, and it was keeping the primers from seating all the way. So I ruined a few cases trying to get these adjusted right. So now that I've got them tuned in, that's why I don't want to monkey with them. So just sorry about that, but that's just the way it goes. So I'm going to load 2 of these this morning. I've got 2 cases and 2 bullets. I've loaded 1 already. I'm just loading 3. I'm going to take them out and try them with the 2.2 grains of unique, see how they do, and then if I like it, I'll come back and load up some more, or if I feel I need to adjust the powder charge, I'll do that. So I'm going to set my camera up with a little better angle, and we're gonna do this. So bear with me. Okay, I'm back and we're set up here. So I'm gonna load these now. I've actually got my first charge on my scale already. I'll weigh the next one out, but I can't think of anything less interesting than watching me weigh out a load, because I do not have a trickler, and it can be kind of finicky sometimes. Watch me do that. So I'm going to go ahead and run these. Now, these are older dies. They do not have a carbide insert, so you do have to lube the cases. I just use Hornaday's unique case lube. I find it works pretty good. I've never had any kind of issues. Just put a little bit on my fingers. It's very cold out this morning. The shed's unheated, so this stuff's sort of like a block of ice. So I'm having to kind of warm it up a little bit to get it working, but got some on there now. This is the first die. This is a resized decap and case mouth expander die, and these were factory rounds that I pulled the bullets on, and so they're primed. They've got live primers, and I'm gonna go ahead and decap this, and I'm going kind of slow and finicky because I'm trying to catch that primer, because I'm planning on reusing it. These primers are just coming out just in pristine condition, so I've got plenty of primers, but I figure I might as well just reuse these. So that's the first one done, and like I said, it seems to work pretty good. I just don't find that it bells the case mouth as much as I would like to see, but it is what it is. I can get the bullet in. I just noticed it kind of shaves a little bit of lead. So do the second one. And I successfully caught both primers. So that's done. I see a lot of stuff online. I'm as bad as anybody, I guess, online with forums and stuff, and I'm on a couple of reloading forums and groups, and people will come in there and ask, and I'm no professional reloader. I've been doing this a very short time, and I load a limited amount of different rounds here, calibers. But it seems like every time anybody gets on there and asks about getting started reloading, everybody jumps on and says, well, you got to get a progressive press. It's just too slow, using a single stage. And I understand that for like competitive shooters who, spend a lot of time, they're shooting, thousands of rounds a week and stuff. But that's not me. I load very few. Like I said, this gun, I got 100 rounds, or I probably won't shoot 100 rounds out of this gun in the next 10 years. I just like the ability to be able to load. Even the ones I shoot more often, like 9mm, I see people say it's a waste of time to load 9mm. It's too cheap. You just go buy it. Or you have to have a progressive to load pistol rounds because it's just too slow and you got to go faster and stuff. I don't find that. I don't get a chance to shoot very often. So for me, I like this press. But what I was going to say was just setting the dies. I see that a lot too, that people recommend. Like if you're going to buy a single stage press, you got to get the quick change dies because you just spend way too much time screwing dies in and out and stuff. I don't screw dies in that much. Like this one, I'm going to have to screw these in twice. And it doesn't take me that long. They're preset. And they go in easy. And you're done. I mean, I can sit here and load 1,000 rounds of ammo, and I might spend 30 seconds or maybe a minute out of all that time changing my dies and screwing them in and out. So I don't understand that, the big concern with that. I don't have a problem screwing the dies in and out, but that's just me ranting. So I'm going to go ahead and prime these. Just putting these same primers back in. It went in no problem, seated in there real nice. It's not deformed or anything. There's absolutely nothing wrong with those primers. And I'll just certainly use them again. So both of those are good. So I'm going to charge this first case. I haven't made a video in a while. I went to a big gun show. I know I said something about that in one of my other videos, and I planned on buying some reloading equipment. And I did buy a few things. Nothing earth shattering, but one thing I did finally break down and buy one of these powder funnels. It is handy. I'll tell you what I was using before then. With the pistol rounds, it wasn't as big a concern, but when I started doing the 223, that is something new I started after the show, I bought some stuff. I had found these little funnels on eBay, and they're called perfume funnels. And they'll actually fit in a little case like that. They won't quite fit in a 223, but they will part way in, enough where I could just use these. And this is what I've been using for reloading. I've got two of these. I think they were like 79 cents with shipping for two of them. And they actually work okay. I didn't really have a big problem with them, but it is easier with this. So I do like this. But dump my powder. And I'm real paranoid about this. I always double check, make sure my powder's in there before I seat my bullet. And I am going to tighten up my brass holder, just a shell holder, just a little bit. Mine is an old style press. Obviously you have to tighten these, and I don't like it if it's flopping around too much. So now we're going to seat our bullet. Now I've got this set already. This die seats, it sets up pretty much like all my other dies. You the body of the die does the crimp, and the stem does the bullet seating depth. So the directions say to screw the die body down until it touches the top of the case, and then back it off about one turn. Then you adjust your seating depth and get your bullet depth where you want it. Then you back that plunger back off, and then you screw the die body back down until it comes back in contact with the case, and then you can tweak it a little bit and adjust your crimp. And then once you have that set, you run the finish round back up in there and screw your plunger back down to get your depth correct. It's just the same way I set all my other dies up, so that one wasn't too big a deal. But this bullet just barely fits in that case mouth. I would definitely, any of my other dies, I would want to expand that case mouth a lot more. But it works. It does seat it in there. It just I didn't run it all the way up in there, but that got it enough where it's seated in, and it does work. But I just don't feel like it expands it enough. Now that one went in okay. There is a little tiny flake of brass there that shaved off. Some of that's lube that's getting pushed off of that round, but I just feel like it should bellet more, but it does work. These have a cantilure on them, so I am got it adjusted down to where I am putting a roll crimp on this, and it is crimping into the cantilure. Some people crimp, some people don't crimp, some people taper crimp. These dies do a roll crimp, and the ones that I shot earlier fired just fine, so I don't have a problem with that. So that's what I'm doing, because that's what the dies do. So now we're going to do the next one. I've got to do my powder load. I'm just using one of my little lead dippers. It's not the right size. It's way too big. So I'm just tapping in flakes of powder a little bit, trickling them in until I get my load up. I'll bump that scale a bit just to make sure it's moving free. And we're starting to get some movement. A couple more flakes. Most of the loading I do, I use a dipper for it, because I don't like having to weigh them out. Now, so far with 223, I'm actually loading it pretty close up to 5.56 level round, so I've been weighing each and every one I do, but I am working on a dipper for that. I don't have a right size dipper, but I'm actually making one. I'm going to try to work on that today. But I can see where a powder trickler would be a good addition when you're doing this stuff. And I may invest in one of these days, but for now I just kind of trickle it up like that. So that's 2 grains. I'm just bouncing that scale just to let it settle again, just to make sure. And yes, we got a good, so that's I'm sorry, 2.2 grains. So we'll charge the case. And seat this bullet. I like these Matt's bullets. This is the first time I've ever used these, and certainly don't have any problem with them. And that one's seated well. So now I'll just have to try them out in the revolver and make sure they work okay. They do put a little bulge here at the bottom of the bullet. I don't like that. I was having that problem with my 45 ACP, and it was causing it not to seat in my gun all the time. And the way I fixed that was by expanding the case mouth more. But like I said, with these dies, I don't have the opportunity to expand it any more than that, so I just have to work with what it is. So that's it. That's 38-200. I'll be shooting those later today, and then probably loading up a few more of them. That's nothing I'm going to do a whole lot of, and that's my antique set of dies. Dies are from 1963. My press is from sometime in the 70s, as far as I can tell, and I'm loading bullets for a gun made in the 40s. So everything about this one is kind of antique. So thanks, YouTube. God bless you all.